Hi friends, this is Shmuel Gonzalez, the Barrio Board Chick, here coming to you from the Boyle Heights History Studios, your museum and cultural center, here in the heart of the Boyle Heights Civic Center. And we are the first full-service historical museum and cultural center here in the community, and we're very proud to also be the meeting place of the Boyle Heights Chavurah, the grassroots Jewish fellowship of East Los Angeles, the last remnant of a Jewish community here in Boyle Heights. And I have the privilege of being the founder and the Shliach Tzibur, the appointed prayer leader for this neighborhood. And I've really loved being able to share the experience of the holidays and Shabbat with you online, even though we're not able to be together every week, and people are not really comfortable being together every week. We do have Shabbat events at least once a month, and we do gather for prayers throughout the holidays and for all the rest of the events. But right now, what I'm here to talk about is how we need to take time to rest. You know why? I'm so exhausted, and that's because I've been working so hard in order to do all kinds of repairs that we've had to this place. We've had some break-ins. We've had some really horrible things that have left kind of a lot of damage, a lot of security issues for our building. So I have just been really, really busy in order having to do a lot of physical construction work, sometimes being up all night and doing this. And so I've just had an exhausting week. And then I had to clean up this place in order to make it ready for Shabbat, because as soon as we come out of Shabbat, we have a tour, Boyle Heights Most Haunted, at 6 p.m. on Saturday as we're coming out of Shabbat. And so I had to clean up the place. And as I was feeling exhausted and I was feeling just like so down about it, what I had to remember is that in our tradition reminds us that we need to acknowledge just how much work we put into making Shabbat. See, if I hadn't put all this work in all week in order to help secure this place, in order to help clean it up, in order to help raise the spirits of this place by just making it, more beautiful, more secure. What happens is that we wouldn't be able to have a real Shabbat Shalom, a Shabbat of peace. And so we work all week in order to have this one day of the week, this one of the 7 days of the week, in order to be able to have a Shabbat, a Sabbath, a pause in time, an island in time in which we are able to gain our strength once again for a week ahead. And in order to enjoy all the best of the blessings that we've had of the week that's passed as well. And so, but one of the things that I'm kind of reminded of is that one of the songs that people love, we love to sing here, especially after you get a few drinks in me. I love to sing. However, one of the things that we normally sing before the Kiddush, before the blessing of Shabbat, is Shalom Aleichem. And it's a blessing, a peace to angels, ministering angels that are sent to us by God. And why do we have this prayer within our Shabbat table service after we come home from the synagogue? Why do we say this at the table before we make Kiddush, before we make the blessing for the sanctification of the Sabbath over wine? And it's because as we leave the synagogue, we have to go through, traditionally in the old neighborhood, through ghettos in order to get to our homes, and through darkness, and oftentimes with having darkness over our heads, the possibility of violence, the possibility of displacement, and the possibility of pogroms, all of these types of things that of attacks that Jews have often had to consider, with people knowing that this is an island in time of peace, of rest, in which Jews really do no type of work. What happens is that we have to trust that God is going to entrust for us for Shabbat this peace, this Shabbat Shalom. But what we imagine is that God sends us angels protecting us all the way to our home in order to protect us, and then once they get there, in order to offer a blessing. But in Judaism, we don't believe in dualism. We don't believe that there is anything that is outside of the control of God. Both blessing and woe are something that come as just part of the natural, the natural reality that God is all powerful and all encompassing, and therefore takes responsibility for all of these things. And one of the things that God does in our tradition, we are told, is send two angels with us, one for good and one for evil. And they are to follow us and to follow us to our home, and they're to inspect our home when they see it. And if they see our home, and they see our home, that our home is bright, that our home is completely clean, that because it is clean, because it is bright, there is no type of confusion, that people aren't having to try to find things over the table, having to find things over the house, and therefore they're having confusion. For that reason, they're having misunderstandings, and they begin to fight, and they're not able to have a Shabbat of Shalom, and everything, if everything isn't bright. But if everything is bright, they most certainly are. So what happens is that what these angels, as they assess the house, they have to assess, is it bright and is it a lovely place? Is it a clean house in which we find that it should, that it is a home of peace? If it is, then what happens is that the angel of peace says, a blessing over the house, that so may it be so the next week, that we should find it bright and it clean and everyone joyful. However, if it is not, the thing is that if it is completely for blessing, then what happens is that even the angel, the agent, the malach of evil has to say, Amen. So may it be so. Amen. So may it be so. Is forced to. However, if the house is completely in disrepair, if it's dirty, if it's in darkness, if there's confusion and people are fighting because of all of this, then what happens is that the agent, the angel of evil, the malach of evil, then what happens is that he says, well, then so may it be so. May it be in total disrepair. May it be dirty. May there be confusion. May they not have a Shabbat of peace. And what happens is that the agent, the angel of good, the malach of good, is forced to say, Amen, ken yetid ratzon. What's amazing is that this is a mystical story. However, it does put our responsibility on our shoulders. Our responsibility in order to make a bright, joyous, and clean house. And that we intend to do it every week. And so that it starts to get inside of us. It starts to present inside of us a habit that week after week, we continue to receive more blessing by getting in this habit. We predetermine. It's not the angels themselves. The angels are forced to agree with the situation that we set before us. So it's not just mysticism. There is predetermination in this existence. And so for this reason, we sing Shalom Aleichem. And the words are, peace upon you, O ministering angels, angels of the exalted one, from the King who reigns over kings, the King of kings, the Holy One, blessed be he. And then the next stanza, we normally say 3 of each of them traditionally in the Orthodox tradition. The next one is, may you come, may your coming be for peace, O angels of peace. The next stanza, bless me for peace, O angels of peace. And may your departure be for peace. Believe it or not, there's also extra traditions. If you're from the North African, the Tunisian tradition, there is also the tradition of the Ish Matzliach from Tunisia and from North Africa. And many of us who are of Spanish and North African traditions come from this tradition. And there's actually an extra stanza that the Ish Matzliach adds to it. And it's Bishavat tachem leshalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Melech Malchei Hamlachim Hakadosh Baruch Hu. So, on your Shabbat, may you bless us for peace. Angels of peace. There's also an additional one of the Middle Eastern tradition that sometimes people add, which is Bitzatachem leshalom. May your going out be in peace. So, depending on your tradition, there might be extra stanzas. But that's to share that there is so much diversity within the Jewish tradition. And but I'm going to sing the ones that we all know kind of universally. Shalom Aleichem. And so let us go ahead and sing this song. I'm going to sing 2 versions of it. We're going to do the traditional kind of Ashkenazi version, which has been known since the early 20th century here in the area. And then we're going to do also a Sephardic version, which says each of the stanzas 3 times. Okay? Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hashadred, Malachei Elyon, Mi melech malachi hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Bochem leshalom malachi hashalom malachi elyon. Mi melech malachi hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Bechuni leshalom malachi hashalom malachi elyon. Mi melech malachi hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Zeitem leshalom malachi hashalom malachi elyon. Mi melech malachi hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. And so a lot of people get the fuzzies inside about that because we know that melody. However, there's also a Middle Eastern, a Sephardic melody that goes a lot faster than this because we want to get to eating and drinking really quickly. So, Shalom Aleichem, Malachi Ashalrei, Malachi Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malachi Ashalrei, Malachi Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ay, 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 Shalom Aleichem, Malachi Hashalreit, Malachi Elyon, Mi Melech Malachi Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bochem Shalom, Malachi Shalom, Malachi Elyon, Mi Melech Malachi Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bochem Shalom, Malachi Shalom, Malachi Elyon, Mi Melech Malachi Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ay, 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 Bochem Shalom, Malachi Shalom, Malachi Elyon, Mi Melech Malachi Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bechuni l'shalom, Malachi Shalom, Malachi Elyon, Mi Melech Malachi Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bechuni l'shalom, Malachi Shalom, Malachi Elyon, Mi Melech Malachi Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ay, ay, ay. Bechuni l'shalom, Malachi Hashalom, Malachi Elyon, Mi Melech Malachi Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Zeitem l'shalom, Malachi Shalom, Malachi Elyon, Mi Melech Malachi Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Zeitem l'shalom, Malachi Shalom, Malachi Elyon, Mi Melech Malachi Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ay, ay, ay. Zeitem l'shalom, Malachi Hashalom, Malachi Elyon, Mi Melech Malachi Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, so let us move on to making our kiddush, to making the blessing over Shabbat. And as is our tradition here, you know, one of the things that's often misunderstood is what the presence is of Jewish people in the neighborhood. And often people don't understand that many of the Jewish people of the neighborhood are very humble people. They've always been here. And, you know, and many of us are actually Latino people. And that many people racialize us and kind of put us into, you know, strange categories. And sometimes they fear us. And, you know, for this reason, within the Ma'ariv Shabbat service, there is the saying of Psalm 23, Mizmor LeDavid. And it is our tradition here in order to show people that we are not afraid and that we don't fear them. That we, you know, say this psalm, Psalm 23. And, you know, I normally do it as we begin to pour, and, you know, our cup, because there are these words within it. So let me go ahead and say the words for you of this psalm that is our tradition here. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai Roi, Lo Efsad, a psalm of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Benot Sodeshet Rabatzeni al Menuhot, Yenachaleni. In lush meadows he lies me down, beside tranquil waters he leads me. Nashi Yoshvev Yenachaleni, B'magle Zedek, Leman Shemo. He restores my soul. He leads me on paths of justice for his name's sake, because that's who he is. Gam ki elek begei zalmave lo iradraki ata imadi. Though I walk in the valley overshadowed by death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Shivtecha umishinatecha heima yenachamoni. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. And these are the very interesting words that I often meditate upon. Ta'arok lifnei shulchan neged zororai. You prepare a table before me in full view of my tormentors, of those who give me hardship. Deshanta b'shemen roshi kosi rabaya. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Ach tov v'chesed yedalfuni kol yamei chayai. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life. Beshafti b'veit Adonai le'orech yamim. And may I dwell in the house of the Lord the length of my days, for long days. Now let us go ahead and make the Kiddush. Yom Hashishi v'yalkulo hashamayim v'haaretz v'chozev ha'am v'yechal Elohim v'yom hashvi'i mikol malakto asher asa v'yishbot v'yom hashvi'i mikol malakto asher asa yevarek Elohim et yom hashvi'i v'yakadesh oto ki vo shavat mikol malakto asher bada Elohim leyasot. The sixth day, thus the heavens and the earth were finished in all their array. And on the seventh day, God completed his work which he had done. And he abstained on the seventh day from all his work which he had done. God blessed the seventh day and hallowed it, because on it he abstained from all his work which God had created to make. So now let us make our blessing over the wine. And by your permission, Sivri Rabbanan Rabboteinu Ved Rabbotai, by your permission, my masters, my rabbis, my teachers, my distinguished guests and fellows. And this is for you at time in which you say, L'chaim, to life, or por la vida, as we say in Ladino, in the Spanish Jewish tongue. Now let's say the blessing together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Borei pri hagafen. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who creates the fruit of the vine. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kadosho be'ahava uvratzon hilhilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit ki hu yom tehila lemikra'e kodesh zecher letziyat mitzrayim ki vanu vahata V'yatanu kidashta mikol hamim v'shabbat kadoshecha beyahava uvad ratzon hilhaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh HaShabbat. You know, we don't do enough singing around here, and we need to do more singing, more Jewish singing right now. And right before I came on, I was listening to Theo Beckel, and I was very, very grateful to be able to help in the planning of the memorial for Theodore Beckel, the wonderful, the wonderful Jewish artist who was notorious for his presence, not just on Broadway, but in many albums, and he's featured here in our exhibit From Brooklyn Avenue to Cesar Chavez, Jewish Histories of Multi-Ethnic Boyle Heights, which is sponsored by the Levy Center of Jewish Studies at UCLA. You know, I have a soundtrack here, so I play some of the songs, and one of the songs is, just his small take on Lecha Dodi and wishing people, Shabbat. And I started thinking about Theo Beckel and about his family, and so I wanted to sing this for you. I always know that a little bit of singing helps raise the spirits. So it's a little bit of Lecha Dodi and wishing everyone Shabbat Shalom. So, Lecha Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, umevorach. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, umevorach. Many of you in my community often wish me a Shabbat Shalom, and of course, my response is Shabbat Shalom umevorach, which is the traditional response for when someone wishes you a Shabbat. You kind of one-up it a little bit. So it's not just a Shabbat of peace, but a Shabbat of peace and blessing is how we give the Shabbat. So when someone wishes you a Shabbat Shalom, respond very proudly, Shabbat Shalom umevorach. May you have a Shabbat of peace and blessing. And so that is my wish for you. And so I want to wish you all a Shabbat Shalom. I hope all of your families are doing well as this COVID and this flu season is becoming so difficult. Thank you for everyone who's been keeping me in prayer and who is continuing to support this work so that we are not able to do just the work of talking about Jewish history, Chicano history, Japanese history, but we're able to help keep African American history, but we're actually able to keep the faith cultures alive. One of the things I'm very excited about, and normally you wouldn't see me so excited about this as a Jewish person, but I totally respect, the tradition of the different faith cultures that represent this community. And so I often think of this place as not just a Jewish space, but an interfaith space in which we're welcoming up people in order to live according to the tradition. Ki beiti beit tefillah likachrei l'chol ha'amim. Ho, that my house should be called a house of prayer for all the nationalities, for all the nations. And one of the things that was really amazing to me last week is I got a call from my friend, Barry Qualls. And Barry Qualls and Brian Qualls are these amazing musicians whose great-great-grandfather was the founder of the first African-American church in our community, Mount Carmel Missionary Baptist Church. It's now converting to become a Latino church, and there are a bunch of artwork that was created, many of it in needlepoint, that was created of the Lord's Prayer and of the Last Supper that was done in needlepoint by African American people in a church that's over a century old, and which people often don't know that there's an African American faith culture that has been long established within this area. And most people don't know that the African American traditions of both the Baptist and the Pentecostal traditions are very, very local within our area, and they have some amazing stories. But I'm so glad that Barry Coles reached out to me and said that as the church was transitioning, they saw these artworks and they wanted to return them to the families. And that at first he was looking at, who he could, possibly auction off these very, very precious items, because they are precious items. They are heirlooms and relics of a very influential community here in Old Boyle Heights that's often overlooked. And that when he, was just looking, online and seeing the work that we're doing here, he's been a friend of mine for so many years. He said, no, I don't want it to leave the community. I want them to stay. And so we are going to soon be taking in the Lord's Prayer and as well as the Last Supper for the original African-American Baptist church in the community, and in order to make sure that the relics of another faith community do not leave this community as well. So we finally live up to, the standard that we have on our wall, that and that we put all over, that we talk about, that we want this place not to just be a place for Chicano Jewish people, but for all people, and that this place live up to the prophetic vision of Ki beiti beit tefillah likachei l'chol ha'amim. Oh, that my house should be called a house of prayer for all the nations. And what is our overall motto that we live by here? Ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. And that's one of the things, is that so many of us faith cultures are having a hard time keeping the lights on, paying rent, and we're all learning in order to pool together our resources in order to keep our vitality within the community. If there is a faith community in the community that needs a place to meet because you're having a hard time finding a place, our doors are open in order to help. As long as we don't have programming on those nights or those days, we would love to, in order to welcome people, in order to represent the faith traditions of this community and to keep them alive and keep them vibrant. Because believe it or not, a lot of people think that the Jewish tradition of Boyle Heights, the lights are already out, but we're still here. And so I want to wish everyone a Shabbat Shalom, not just to the Jewish people, to the people of Boyle Heights, East Los Angeles. Thank you for helping us have a home here in this community, and may you continue to support us, that we continue to have a home here in this community for years to come. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom umevorach.